Good evening, everyone. Dober večer. Basically, we have to break the ice somehow, and I was thinking of your link to Slovenia. It doesn't happen very often for an author to get all his novels translated into one language, right? Also, it doesn't happen very often to come to residency here twice, I believe, right? And to be able to present one's work in one country so regularly.
Well, thank you for the question, but before answering the question, I would like to thank you for coming this evening to this event. It is a pleasure for me to be back in Slovenia. I would like to say thank you to my publisher, Goga, for bringing me to the country, this beautiful country again. And thank you to Jernej to bring me to Maribor. So the reason because I'm here is because of the kindness of my publisher, actually. It is small. I don't know how small, how big is Goga within the Slovenian publishers, but what I know is they are really careful and professional. Careful. They are they have embraced my work since the beginning. And when I have a new work in Spain to be published in Spanish, I always know that 4 or 3 translations will come after that publication. It's a kind of small network of confidence and trust, and one of them always is Goga from Slovenia. So it is something that I have to thank them, not for me, it's for them, because of the kindness and they trust in my work. So that's a reason. And say that, I feel always really well welcomed here in Slovenia. Because they give me the opportunity to write or to develop my work in a very good conditions. They invite me to this residence in Novo Mesto, in a very special spot in Novo Mesto, in the city center, in a very beautiful place, surrounded by the river Karka and the trees and forests and all that. So they give me the opportunity to develop my work in those great conditions that I don't always have at home. As I say, even my home, I don't have my own desk. I'm a writer, but I don't have my own desk to write. I have to share with my family, which is perfect. But I have to, pack all my things every day. So in this residence, I have the perfect conditions for writing. And apart from that, I really appreciate, I love the country. For me, it's kind of exotic country. I live in a city which is almost in the middle of the desert. And I live here surrounded by trees and humidity and leaves falling and different colors and different temperature and quiet people around and kind people around. In Spain as well, I live surrounded by kind people there. I feel so welcome at the end of here in Slovenia, and I always appreciate and I will never say thank you enough for giving me this opportunity. This is my short answer. We were planning to challenge or kind translators with just one answer in the whole, 1 hour answer, but I think it's enough for you.
Da prebijemo led, najprej vprašanje. Vsa njegova dela so namreč prevedena v slovenščino. To pomeni, da ima kar dobro povezavo s slovenščino. Tudi 2-krat je tukaj imel že rezidenco in odgovor se glasi. Najlepša hvala za vaše vabilo. Vedno znova sem vesel, da sem tukaj v Sloveniji. Velika zahvala gre tukaj Založbi Goga in pa tudi Jernej, da so me pripeljali v Slovenijo. Vsekakor je to tudi deloma prijaznost same založbe, sicer nisem prepričan, kako velika je sama založba, ampak res se potrudijo za avtorje in nas podpirajo. Doma v Španiji, ko pripravim eno delo, sem lahko prepričan, da bodo zagotovo sledili vsaj 3 ali 4 prevodi. To je nek krog zaupanja in v tem krogu se vedno znova pojavi tudi Založba Goga. In prav zato sem tukaj, ker se resnično počutim dobrodošlega, pogoji za delo so dobri, tudi moja rezidenca v Novem mestu je bila izvrstna. Zraven je reka Krka, vse okrog narava in to so resnično super pogoji. V primerjavi s tem doma v Španiji v bistvu niti nimam svoje mize, si jo delim z družino in zato lahko rečem, da je takšna rezidenca nekaj, kar mi ponuja prav popolne pogoje za pisanje. Sicer je Slovenija zame kar malce eksotična dežela, ker v Španiji, kjer živim, je praktično puščava, tukaj pa vidim različne letne čase, sploh jeseni, barvno listje na drevesih, vsekakor pa tudi prijazni ljudje naokrog, kar sicer ne pomeni, da bi tudi v Španiji imeli neprijazne ljudi, imamo prijazne ljudi. In zato se moram še enkrat zahvaliti založbi, da me je pripeljala sem. In pa še kratko pojasnilo, danes želimo tolmače preizkusiti, če lahko v bistvu kar cel pogovor naenkrat pretolmači.
Yeah, you said, you gave me a key now where to continue. You said that Slovenia is quite exotic for you, or so it seems. And of course, I should say that today we will definitely focus on your last novel, Pelji me domov, Take Me Home. Because otherwise it would be too much. This novel is tremendous. It seems very simple at the first glance, I would say, but when you start going deeper, you see how complex it is, right? So it's actually very difficult to encompass everything, but we'll do our best. But nevertheless, the same goes for the protagonist, namely that, for example, he feels that Edinburgh, where he has lived for the past 4 years, was this exotic place in a way, and he calls it my northern paradise, something like that, right? I'm paraphrasing now because I'm translating it from Slovenian into English. But I think that this sensitivity to environment is very crucial for the novel itself, but probably also for you as a writer, right? And I was constantly thinking of reading a work by a geologist who said something like the sense of place is deep within us. But of course, it used to be true, and now we are losing this feeling, right? Maybe you could elaborate on this.
Yes.
Okay, we can do it like this as well. Se pravi, iztočnica je ravno ta, da je Slovenija eksotična dežela. In v delu Pelji me domov na prvo žogo deluje precej preprosta, ampak z globino pridobiva na kompleksnosti. In enako lahko rečemo tudi za glavni lik, ki v bistvu na nek način opisuje svoje mesto v raju. Ključno pa je to seveda tako za glavni lik kot za samega pisatelja pri pisanju, in mislim, da en geolog bil tisti, ki je rekel, da je občutek lokacije v bistvu zelo globoko zasidran, in morda je pa to iztočnica za nadaljne komentarje.
Before answering, I don't know if it's better if we...
I think it's better.
If it's better, okay.
Yeah, to do like block, right? Question,
right.
Answer, and then, okay.
Let's go. Well, the question was about the influence of the environment in my writing in my life. Definitely. It is something I'm discovering as far as I write more and more. Some certain topics appears one again after another again, one and after another, and one of them is definitely the landscape. The reason is simple. I was born in a very small village, not a small but quite small village in the west part of Spain near the Portuguese border. And when I was 4 years old, my family moved to another similar size town in the central region of Spain. I was there until I was 18 years old, 19 years old. I went to Madrid for study at university. So I spent all my childhood as my first years as a young, living in direct contact with the landscape. That was my playground, actually. You know, I arrived from school, I dropped my stuff and just ran through the landscape, through the fields, not forest, but the olive trees, olive groves and all of that. So that was my the part of the world in which I grew up, and I learned the most important things in my life. And when when I started to write, and I started to look for topics in which write, I discovered that that topic was the key, especially for the background of the novels. My novels are not. I don't practice nature writing.
No.
But in every novel I write, nature appears as a background for the characters, for the all of them. And in some ways, especially in the first novel, but in all of them as well, this landscape is intertwined with the characters. Furthermore, I usually use the background, the nature, the landscape as a kind of mirror of the characters. So, especially, for instance, the first novel is a boy who runs or flees from his family home, going through a very desertic and harsh landscape. In that book, the landscape says what the character can or can't do. It's a big influence on the action, on the plot. So I never use the landscape as just a simple background, like something which is behind, but something that is between the characters and the readers. It's a part of the novel. It's a kind of character as well, with its own behavior, I could say.
Se pravi, vpliv narave je pri meni vedno prisoten. In s tem, ko sem pisal več in več, sem vedno bolj opažal, da narava in pokrajina močno vplivata na moje ustvarjanje. Sam sem se rodil v vasi v zahodni Španiji, blizu portugalske meje. Nato smo se preselili v osrednji del Španije, kjer sem živel nekje do 18. leta, na kar sem se pa preselil v Madrid. Tako sem v bistvu svojo mladost preživel v naravi. Sicer nekakšnih večjih gozdov ni bilo, ampak vseeno določena drevesa, grmičevje, se pravi narava. Ko sem začel pisati, sem tudi dodatno odkrival te motive narave in v mojih delih je narava pogosto ozadje, ki dopolnjuje like. Pogosto sodeluje v dogajanju in tudi zrcali dogajanje okrog likov. En izmed primerov je en mojih mladih likov, ki pobegne od doma in v bistvu pokrajina v tem času odraža situacijo, ki se v bistvu tudi ustvarja med samim pisnim delom in bralcem.
Also the weather, I think, is paramount, right, in the novel, especially, I think in this one as well, right, because there is constantly this clash within the protagonist. He's thinking about the weather in Edinburgh, that is bearable, right, versus the heat, the constant heat, the dryness of central Spain where they are at. And I think that this then also has to do with the way probably you perceive body and bodily sensations, because it's always somehow combined, right?
That's a good example on how nature, in this case the weather, can have an influence on the plot or even in the soul of the characters. When Juan, the protagonist of the main character of this book, in some way flees from or tries to escape from his family home, he's escaping from his past, he's escaping from his land, he's escaping from his language. At the end, he's escaping from his family. And he relates everything around his family and his land and his country as something he don't want to face. And so he have decided to imagine a new world, a better world for him, and he thinks or feels that humidity, the north, the humidity, the English language, everything which is far from his family, from his life of his past is better. It's an imaginary life. One is the thing we actually have. One is the thing, the other thing is the life we desire, which is in our heads, not necessarily in the real life. So this is the contradiction in this character. This is conflict in this character. And he's, again, under the influence of what happened around. One of the things he really hates is the hot weather. And one of the things he likes and he loves actually is the Scottish weather. Which is horrible, actually.
Which is horrible. And his friend at one point tells him, right, you're an asshole, complaining here about the hot weather, right? Yes.
Yeah, I've lived in Scotland, and I have to say I love the Scottish weather. Me too. This is, seems to be impossible, but I come from a country, and a part of the country in which we have 48 degrees during the summertime. That's horrible weather. So this is something that is happening with the climate change. Of course, it used to be that way. But the horrible weather is not just the Scottish weather, because it rains and it's cold and it's windy. Horrible weather is, unbearable, an air that you can breathe even. So That's the reason, because the character love and hate, and this is a contradiction. This is the main conflict, and this is probably what triggers the novel. And this is the starting point from the character, and we have to read the novel to see how this character evolves into something different that will finally happen. I will not say what, but in which way, but will happen. It will change this point of view of the reality.
Yeah.
Tudi vreme igra na nek način vlogo v tvojih delih. Če gledamo to nekakšno notranje trenje pri liku, primerjava Edinburga in osrednje Španije, pa tudi dojemanje telesa je očitno tukaj povezano. Odgovor? Ja, zanimivo je, kako vreme tudi vpliva na samo dogajanje. Konkretno ta lik Juan, ki pobegne od doma, v bistvu beži od svojega domačega okolja, od svojega jezika, od svoje družine. Preprosto se ne želi soočiti s vsemi temi stvarmi in v bistvu hrepeni po vlažnem vremenu, po angleškem jeziku, po vseh teh tujih zadevah, za katere verjame, da so boljše od njegovih lastnih. In to je tudi znak teh želja, ki se v bistvu pojavljajo pri nas v glavi in predstavljajo tudi vir konflikta tega lika. Konkretno on namreč ne mara vročine in mu je precej ljubše škotsko vreme in na neki točki mu tudi en drug lik, njegov prijatelj, pove, da je po bistvu kar en nesramnež, ker se pritožuje nad tem lepim vremenom v Španiji in bi raje imel to deževno, objektivno slabo škotsko vreme. In tudi jaz sam imam v bistvu rad škotsko vlažno vreme, ker če si predstavljamo, v Španiji imamo poleti tudi do 48 stopinj, kar je grozno kot posledica podnebnih sprememb. In kot rečeno, to škotsko deževno vreme je vir tega konflikta pri tem liku in je tudi v bistvu izhodiščna točka za njegov razvoj skozi celotno delo. Kaj več pa tukaj ne bom izdal.
Before reading an excerpt, let's just say a few more words about this conflict, right? Basically, we have a conflict, an outside conflict, right, with a clash of environments, of cultures, of even a clash of generations, of course, right? And you said that how he wanted to escape tradition and everything else. And on the other hand, this conflict is within him, right? He says at one point liberation was possible only by going away and disrupting this tradition and also expectations that the family had from him, that he will just continue in the same manner. But I was also thinking about the concept of displacement that is usually very present in, let's say, post-colonial literature, but also it can be when talking about modernity and the modern man breaking away from tradition and then becoming this split person, right? Very alienated in a certain environment. Were you thinking about that at all, or did it just somehow crawl into your writing, also this idea of displacement in this way?
Well, it is a very good question. Displacement that absolutely happens in the novel with him is something that I really experienced. I am a generation that was born when the dictator in Spain was in power, the last years of power, and I grew up in a full democracy in Spain, or a new democracy in Spain that was developing through the years until this point. But my parents, they were born during the Civil War or just soon afterwards the Civil War. So there is a sense of displacement between generations, yes, which is clear to the character and was clear to me. But this is displacement in displacement as well in geographical terms, in the way that he's part of what we could say the rural Spain. Yes. You know, what we so-called now the empty space. You know, Spain's a huge country with a lot of population concentrated in just a few spots, Madrid, Barcelona, Valencia, big cities, and it is a huge empty space, huge, with one of the lowest rates of population in Europe in some areas of Spain. So there is a sense of displacement as well in this. He's from a rural part of Spain, and he wants to be from within another part of Spain or whatever. He wants to go to a city to be with more people. So as well is this part, but it is as well a displacement in, I could say, as a man as well.
As a what?
As a man.
As a man, yes.
As a man. He has been raised in a, I could say, in a machist, or I don't know if it's a right word in English.
Yeah, we have macho.
It's a machist environment, which is part of this Spanish tradition. All this time, the parents were, as I say, raised after the Civil War. So he doesn't escape. In the novel, he came across with this idea. He has to face this idea. His sister is taking charge of his parents much more than him because he is a male. So there are all these movements, and it's of course the South is something more. It's broad and it's wider. It's South and the North as well. In Spain, I think in Morocco, look at Spain and say, well, this is the country I want to be, or I want to be. In Spain, we look to France and to Northern Europe, and in Northern Europe, I don't know where they are looking at, probably at the North Pole or whatever, I don't know, with the moon. But this is sense of displacement as well in political terms or in society. So all these displacements are concocted in this novel. It's something that I really see every day, and it worries me, and it's part of my, evolution as well as a human being or as a man even. So all these worries appears in this novel, and I don't know if we are revealing too much things. I don't think so. No,
I don't think so.
Have you read the novel or?
Not yet.
Not yet. Well,
so we are about to convince you.
Sorry if we spoil in a certain point, but
I don't think we are spoiling anything.
Okay.
Yes.
This is more or less a answer.
Okay. An additional question here, a very short one, and a case of displacement is already present in the title itself. I would say the interpretation can be a displacement, if you will, because it's a very tricky title, right? I mean, what is home in this narrative, right?
Well, that's a very good question. What's home? Home is for me is a feeling more than a fact. Home. One thing is a house in which you live or you will feel comfortable or protected. Another thing is a place in which you feel really comfortable or yourself. And the place in which you feel yourself is not necessary to be related to your house, to a place. So as well as I didn't thought in that way. So many displacements in this book. It's a displaced book.
Yes, I think this could be a thesis, displacement in Carrasco's
novelist.
Se pravi.
Now we put him to the test.
Preden preberemo kak izsek, v bistvu precej je teh konfliktov, konflikt okolij, tudi generacij. In ta glavni lik tudi nekako želi ubežati tradiciji, kljub temu, da se konflikt v bistvu skriva v njem samem. In rešitev, ki jo on vidi, je neke vrste prekinitev tradicije, tudi na nek način pobeg. In ta koncept bega, zamenjave okolja, nekako razcepi osebnost. In zato nas zanima, ali je to namerno kot takšno vključeno. In odgovor tukaj je, da je ta zamisel sicer kar poznana. In sam sem bil v bistvu rojen v diktatorskem režimu, odraščal pa v demokraciji. A če primerjam to s svojimi starši, oni so bili rojeni med vojno in zaradi tega je med nami tudi precejšnja generacijska razlika. Pa tudi fizična razdalja se tukaj najde. V Španiji recimo govorimo o tako imenovanem praznem prostoru. Španija sama je površinsko resnično velika in tam živi tudi ogromno ljudi, ampak največ ljudi živi v velikih mestih, kot so Madrid, Barcelona, Valencija in ostale. Vmes pa je v bistvu fizično prazen prostor. In tudi ta lik v bistvu prihaja s podeželja, pa bi si v resnici želel živeti v mestu z več ljudmi. Kot moški je v bistvu odraščal v nekakšne vrsti mačo kulturi in zato tudi njegova sestra precej več skrbi za starše, saj je on moški. Po drugi strani pa imamo tudi to fizično privlačnost severa. Nekdo v Maroku si verjetno misli, kako bi rad živel v Španiji. V Španiji gledamo severno proti Franciji, pa si mislimo, kako bi živeli v Franciji. Francozi pa najverjetneje gledajo vse do Skandinavije in si mislijo, mi bi pa najraje živeli tam. In vse to hrepenenje se tudi združi skupaj z določenimi skrbmi, ki jih sam doživljam v tem romanu. Vmes je bilo tudi vprašanje, če ste knjigo morda prebrali, če še ne, mislim, da vas bomo kar prepričali, da jo preberete. Na to pa je sledilo še dodatno vprašanje, da tudi pri naslovu imamo ta neke vrste premika, se pravi, pelji me domov. In tukaj je bilo vprašanje, kaj pa sploh je dom? In tukaj pravi avtor, da je v bistvu dom bolj film, kot pa kakšno dejstvo. Je v bistvu lahko tudi mesto, kjer se dobro počutimo. Dobro se pa počutimo ne nujno samo doma, kjer je naše fizično bivališče, lahko je tudi dosti drugih mest, ki služijo tej funkciji.
I'm a great defender of books in paper. I'm a writer, but I'm going to read from The Enemy, from the Kindle. I'm sorry, Goga. No, it's not The Enemy. But
Sem sicer pisatelj in velik zagovornik papirnatih knjig, ampak bom danes vseeno bral iz velikega nasprotnika knjig, to je Kindle.
This excerpt is taken from almost the beginning of the novel, second chapter, and I will say something for the ones who have not read the novel yet. This novel starts with Juan coming from Scotland to attend to the father's funeral, suddenly, because and so we see him arriving to the family home that he fled, so he decided to escape from. And this is what he finds when he arrives.
Se pravi, za tiste, ki knjige niste prebrali, malce ozadja tega odlomka je v bistvu iz drugega poglavja, se pravi iz samega začetka knjige, in v bistvu govori o tem, kako se glavni lik Juan vrne z Škotske zaradi očetovega pogreba in v bistvu opisuje situacijo, ki jo doživlja, ko se vrne v svoj rodni kraj.
Does anyone of you understand Spanish?
A kdo razume špansko?
No? Well, this is the taste of Spanish language. Juan hunde la manija de hierro de la puerta y empuja. De la casa sale aire fresco y un olor que únicamente existe en ese lugar. Una fragancia particular que solo se percibe cuando se ha estado tiempo fuera y lo exterior ha renovado lo interior. Es un olor al tiempo anodino y único. Una nariz entrenada diría que aquí se ha hervido coliflor durante decenios. Hay, o ha habido, una chimenea de leña, naftalina en los armarios, chacinas de matanza colgando de una viga, chorizos que gotean su pimentón sobre una bandeja de lata. Aquí se ha lavado ropa con jabón hecho a base de sosa y aceite usado. Litros de amoníaco han aniquilado bacterias a lo largo de los años. Hay trazas de excrementos infantiles que alguien, una mujer, ha retirado de gasas de algodón que después ha lavado, escurrido y tendido en el patio. Se nota un tufo milenario procedente de una pata de liebre caída detrás de un armario. Vestigios de agua oxigenada, como la que usan los taxidermistas para blanquear los cráneos. En esta casa solo entran mariscos en Navidad, y no de la mejor calidad. Huele a sudor, a grasa en las manos, a cicatrices viejas, a pus, a colonia de litro, a cableado con camisa de tela, a plomos fundidos, a transformador de 125 voltios, a golpes en un televisor en blanco y negro.
Juan pritisne na kljuko in odpre vrata. Iz hiše zaveje poseben vonj, ki ga začutiš samo, če si bil nekaj časa z doma. Tako da je zunanji svet že prezračil tvojo notranjost. To je vonj po neponovljivem in duhamornem času. Izurjen nos bi rekel, da so tu desetletja kuhali cvetačo. Da je tu bil ali pa še vedno je kaminna drva, naftalin v omarah, sušeno meso od kolin, ki visi s tramu, klobase, od katerih na pločevinast pladenj kaplja maščoba, začinjena s papriko. Da so tu prali perilo z milom, narejenimi sode in odpadnega jedilnega olja. Litri amonijaka so vsa ta leta ubijali bakterije. So tudi sledi otroških iztrebkov, ki jih je nekdo, neka ženska, odstranil z bombažnih gas, ki jih je nato prav ožel in obesil na dvorišču. Čuti se tisočletni smrad, ki prihaja od zajčje noge, ki je padla za omaro. Opazne so sledi vodikovega peroksida, kakršnega uporabljajo nagačevalci za beljenje lobanj. V to hišo morski sadeži vstopajo le za božič, pa še takrat niso najboljše kakovosti. Smrdi po potu, mastnih rokah, starih brazgotinah, litrski kolonski vodici, kablih ovitih v majico, pregorelih varovalkah, 125-voltnem transformatorju, udarcih po črno-belem televizorju. Now you can clap for the author, of course. I think that already here in this passage we can also sense or get a feeling of his alienation, right? And I would like to say a few words about the moment where I felt he was most alienated, and that was at the funeral, where he was actually completely segregated from the rest of them, just observing, and was completely unable to. Would you like to say some words about that? How you worked with his alienation?
That's a good question again. The character arrives to, or starts a novel being in an emotional state of, I could say, emptiness. I could say he's unable to express his feelings. He has been raised in a family and in a culture that didn't teach their kids to express the feelings. It was part of the culture. It was part of the time. My parents, were so busy trying to raise families, trying to push the country ahead after the war. So they hadn't time, I think. This is my view now. No, when I was a kid or as a teenager, it wasn't my view.
Yeah, of course. This is your view now.
This is my view now. Yes, I can understand my parents now, because I understand the history now. They were unable to express these feelings, especially the men, especially my father. He was a good example of that generation. So the character Juan has been raised in this atmosphere, and he is unable to express the feelings. So when he arrives, what he discovers is that he has lost the tract of his family, and of course the tract of expression of the feelings. And what we found when he arrives is the death of the father, which is a tremendous catastrophe in the family. And he doesn't know what to do with all those feelings. He doesn't know what to do with a grief mother who has lost his husband. And he doesn't know anything about his sister, because he hasn't been in contact with them at all in this level. Yeah, of course, they are siblings and they know each other, but he doesn't know anything about his sister. So this is the state of the character, and the main, the best place in the book in which you can see this is during the funeral. He's apart from everything. He's observing. You can't be observing in the funeral of your parents. You have no time. You have to be inside that. You have to be grieving. You have to be supposedly suffering the loss of someone essential in your life, your father. But he's observing as a journalist.
Yeah.
And the novel is a story of this transformation, of this slight transformation. It's not a complete transformation. He's not a hero. He's a normal guy. But if you read the novel, you will perceive some details in which you can detect this transformation. A small transformation, but enough transformation to suggest to you as a reader, I hope so, that the transformation will follow after the end of the book. I've tried to write in this way because I think it's more natural. I don't know anyone apart. Of course, in the films you can see this huge transformation, 180-degree transformation of person, but not in the real life. For me, the important transformations are small transformations that you can put one after another in a row, and at the end of the world, at the end of your life, probably you will be a better person. And sometimes you have to learn simple things that you know from your childhood, and you have to learn some things which is so difficult for you, but it's easy for me. These small transformation, these small problems that we face during the life is the life itself.
Yes.
So I finally have written a book about the life itself, the normal life of the normal people. You know, I think it was Balzac, would say that literature is about the life of normal people or something like that. Historians take charge of the big events, what happened with the Bastille or the French Revolution happened, but who talks about the people who were in the riots, who were the 8 people who died in those 2 days on that day? And Edith Bouillard, the French author, tells about the story of the intimate story of these people. So this is literature for me. The history, or the stories of the normal people, not the big events. So this is a novel about these normal people with these simple events that everyone can recognize, because we are all part of the family. We have the experience of being at home, of fighting with our parents, facing problems of our society, of our time. This is the novel about. So you can't wait to read in this novel a great historical event, a great historical change, a huge change. No, what you're going to attend is just the real life.
Yes.
And I have tried to add a bit of poetry, if you allow me to. I'm not a poet, I can't write poetry, but I have tried to add a kind of beauty in these simple stories of normal life.
Oh yes, I agree completely. Even the ending, oh my God, it's, yes. But also I just a short addition, because you were saying about normal families. I loved the fact that the book at one point echoes Tolstoy's idea about happy or unhappy families, right? You, of course, paraphrase it completely and say something like, happy families don't spark good novels, right? I loved that, yes. That's just an intermezzo, yes, okay. I have so many questions now in my head. Where to go after this?
Se pravi, v tem odlomku začutimo nekakšno odtujenost in mislim, da je situacija, ki ima najbolj tuja sam pogreb, ker je v bistvu fizično ločen od vseh ostalih, in zato me zanima, kako si delal in pisal z to odtujenostjo v mislih. Ja, se pravi, čustveno stanje Juana je v bistvu stanje neke praznosti. On je odraščal tudi v kulturi, kjer izražanje čustev ni bilo ravno vsakodnevno. V času po vojni so njegovi starši namreč delali na tem, da ponovno zgradijo in vzpostavijo svojo državo, in to je morda pripomba, ki se je zavedam zdaj v nekakšni retrospektivi. Moj oče je na primer tudi tipičen primer takšne vzgoje. Naš lik Juan pa v bistvu ugotovi, ko se vrne, da ne čuti nekakšne povezanosti z družino. Gre za to, da je smrt njegovega očeta katastrofa tudi za sleherno špansko družino, če oče umre, ampak v bistvu ne ve skoraj ničesar več o svoji mami, o svoji sestri. To potem najbolje vidimo na samem pogrebu. V bistvu, če smo na pogrebu bližnjega družinskega člana, ne moremo samo opazovati, moramo žalovati smrt, v tem primeru očeta. Juan pa je v bistvu stal tam in opazoval kot v bistvu nekakšen zunanji novinar. V tem delu tudi ni za pričakovati nekakšne popolne preobrazbe. Sicer je roman o spremembah in to poskušam tudi tako zapisati, ampak če pričakujete nekakšne spremembe v smislu obratov za 180 stopinj, ti preprosto niso resnični in tudi nimajo mesta tukaj. Tukaj boste našli majhne spremembe, kot odgovore na vsakodnevne majhne težave, in s tem, ko jih premagujemo, postanemo en mičken boljši. In to je v bistvu življenje slehernika. Mislim, da je bil prav Balzac tisti, ki je rekel, da je v bistvu literatura tista, ki govori o življenju običajnih ljudi. Zgodovina na drugi strani piše o teh velikih dogodkih, Literatura pa je tista, ki v bistvu piše o vsakdanjem življenju ljudi. Tukaj imamo tudi primer družine, vsakodnevni dogodki, tudi prepiri med družinskimi člani, odnosi in tako naprej. To je v bistvu ena zadeva, kjer tudi niso za pričakovati nekakšne ogromne spremembe in kot rečeno, jih zato tukaj ne boste našli. Sem pa poskusil vključiti tudi nekaj malega poezije, če tudi sam nisem ravno poet. Tukaj je potem Kristina dodala, da se to vidi tudi v koncu, ker med klicem o moj Bog. In se vidi v bistvu tudi, da se nekako odraža običajna družina tudi v Tolstojevem smislu, ki je pisal o srečnih in nesrečnih družinah, vsekakor pa velja, da srečne družine niso dober material za romane.
Yes, I think I've read in an interview somewhere that now I was reminded of that again, that it's full of autobiographical elements, right? And then, of course, when you read this and then the novel, you ask yourself what, but I think the more we talk, the more we learn about it, right? That you share quite a lot with Juan, also the background, and I didn't even think of it before. How are you balancing between that, you know, I wouldn't like to say between autobiographical and literary because it's literature, right? But still, so that you don't predominate maybe over the protagonist.
It is not my place.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the author. Supposedly, I should be absolutely away from the mind of the reader. That's the perfect position for the writer to disappear in the novel.
Yes.
The novel is about the characters and the plot, not about the authors. Unless you write an autobiography or self-fiction or that kind of thing. I mean, if the reader knows that what is happening, the facts are your own life, well, this is a different perspective. It's another experience for a reader. But it is not my case. This is fully fiction. It is not my autobiography. It is not Juan. It is not me. But Juan shares with me so many things. He runs. I run. Of course, I run through the Slovenian forests, which I love. I do as much as I can. Just an anecdote. The other day, running through a very thick forest. This is not part of the question of the answer, but I have to say this in front of this kind of Slovenian audience. I was running because it's ridiculous what I'm about to say. I was running through the forest. It was a long run, around 12 or 14 kilometers running or something like that. So I got lost because you have a lot of roads. So many roads within that same forest. And at a certain point, you don't know which is the main road and which are the secondary roads. So I tried, this could be this. At a certain point, I got lost again in the middle of the forest. And in that moment, when I tried to get oriented, I reminded something scary. In the north part of Spain, there are high mountains where the bears were disappeared, were absolutely extinguished. And a few years ago, they were introduced a couple of bears to rebuild the population of bears in that part of Spain. And do you know which was the country from the bears came from? Slovenian. And I say, oh my God. I'm in the middle of a Slovenian forest.
But they are all in Spain, probably, you know.
No, those bears are in Spain, but so many, the families, the relatives probably will be in Slovenia. And I was so lost and, impressed by the forest. I say, probably a bear will come now, and I don't know what to do. I can't jump or climb into the trees because it's high, and the phone will drop, and I couldn't be able to talk to Jedder. Jedder send the firemen or an helicopter or something because the phone is over there and I'm here and the bear won't see. That's what I was thinking when I was running. This is something that it doesn't happen to the character in the novel, but coming back to this was more and more challenging for you. This. So well. The character runs, and I run too, as you know. The character lived in Scotland as I lives. The novelist said in the village in which I grew up, a small bit beside, So there are so many things part of my life, and the reason is simple. It is not because I wanted to write myself autobiography. It is something, the reason had to do with something technical. When I wrote this novel, I have spent 3 years in Scotland. I went to Scotland to, for many reasons, but I was granted, so I was supported with from a Spanish foundation to write a novel. And I wrote one novel in Scotland, and I finished it, and I didn't like it, so I discarded it. I started a new novel, and I finished it, and I didn't like it, so I discarded it, and I moved to Spain, back to Spain. After 3 years of working so hard and having nothing in my hands. So I decided to go back to what I know and say, well, what are the ingredients I have around to write a novel? My life, the place in which I grew up, the problem we have with my mother-in-law, which is so ill, the conflicts I have with my parents, be a man in these times. This is what I know. So let's do it. Let's try with something simple, something close to me. And I wrote this novel in so quick time.
How long were you writing it?
A couple of days. No, I don't know. I started to write, and I perfectly remember the moment on a Friday, a winter Friday in December 2019, and I see it, and I didn't stand up until 7-8 weeks. In 7-8 weeks, more or less, I wrote the first draft. It is something. This character is part of one of those novels I discarded when I wrote in Scotland. So lots of the research was done when I wrote this novel. But apart from that research or that previous work, it was something I really knew. Not because it was something close to me, because the novel reflects parts of my worries as a citizen, as a human being, as a man. So just was a kind of thinking, and just let me go and let's see what happened. And what happened is a book, because I'm a writer. Supposedly I can write when I try.
You can.
Supposedly I have been writing for the last 30 years, so it's something that I really know how to do. The difficult thing is what to write. And I decided to write this. And at the end, and I'm finishing this challenge for our translator, at the end, literature is a point of view, to my mind, in my opinion, it's a point of view. You know how to write. You're a writer. You know the technique. The best thing you can offer to your readers is your point of view over the life and over the world and over your time. And it's exactly what I did with this book, offering my point of view over the life, over my time, of the human being I am. Is enough, or do you want something longer?
And you gave him a mustache.
No, I didn't.
Yes, he wipes beer off his mustache.
In the novel?
Yes.
Probably it's another novel, or?
No, this one. I will find it
I don't
for you.
remember
Yes.
that.
I had to laugh. I was laughing at it. I thought, oh, he gave him mustache. If it's maybe the translation, I don't know. Okay.
No, probably. I wrote it 5 years ago, so probably 4 years ago.
V enem izmed intervjujev sem prebrala, da ima ta roman tudi nekaj avtobiografskih elementov. In tudi sama opažam, da si ogromno stvari deliš s Juanom. Me pa zanima, kako v takšnem romanu vzdrževati ravnovesje med, lahko bi rekla, avtobiografskimi in literarnimi elementi, čeprav v bistvu gre v celoti za literaturo. Kaj ne? In odgovor? Ja, v bistvu ni moja vloga, da predstavljam svoje lastno življenje v takšnem pogledu. Pisatelj se mora na nek način umakniti iz tega dogajanja, pa naj bo res sama avtobiografija ali pa preprosto fikcija. In drži, Juan ima ogromno podobnosti z mano. Oba sva zbežala, jaz sam begu tudi tekel, na to tekel skozi slovenske gozdove in enkrat se je zgodilo, da sem med tem daljšim tekom, mislim, da je bilo enih 12 ali 14 kilometrov, sem se med vsemi temi stezami v gozdu zgubil. moram reči, da imate res ogromno različnih cest, od glavnih, stranskih, pa tudi teh kolovozov v gozdovih. In sem preprosto poskusil, katera pa me bo kam odpeljala in kaj se je zgodilo, znova sem se izgubil. Takrat sem se spomnil, da so na severu Španije, v gorovju, pred kratkim ponovno naselili medvede. In odkot so pripeljali te medvede? Ja, prav iz Slovenije. In takrat sem pomislil, ja, kaj pa, če se zdaj tukaj v Sloveniji pojavi kak medvedji sorodin teh, ki so zdaj pristali v Španiji, morda ne bodo najbolj veseli. Po drugi strani niti nisem zmožen kaj previsoko skočiti ali splezati na drevo. Če bi splezal na drevo, bi lahko tudi izgubil telefon in potem ne bi mogel poklicati na pomoč, konkretno jedrt, da bi poslala kakšne reševalce za menoj. In ja, seveda to ni zgodba samega romana, zgolj ena moja izkušnja. Nisem pa želel pisati avtobiografije in če se morda dotaknem enega tehničnega stališča, 3 leta sem preživel na Škotskem z namenom pisanja romana. Prva zadeva, ki sem jo zapisal, mi ni bila všeč in sem jo zavrgel. Drugič, znova nekaj napišem in mi ni bilo všeč, tako da sem zadevo znova zavrgel. Po 3 letih sem tako bil v bistvu brez kakršnih koli konkretnih rezultatov v roki in rekel sem si, da se v bistvu moram vrniti k svojim koreninam, morda k nekim osnovam, ki so v bistvu moje življenje. To najbolje poznam in lahko sem črpal iz težav s taščo, ki je bolna, s tem, kako biti v moški v določenem obdobju in tako naprej. Tako sem v bistvu ta roman spisal izredno hitro. Spomnim se, da sem začel na en hladen decembrski dan in prvi osnutek rokopisa sem imel pripravljen nekje v 7 oziroma 8 tednih. Seveda ogromno ozadja, ki je tukaj vključenega, izhaja iz mojih 3 let na Škotskem. In posledično tudi ta moj roman odraža eno lastno miselnost, skrbi, ki mene tarejo. In ja, glede na to, da bi že naj bil pisatelj, mislim, da mi pisanje nekako vsaj mora iti. In zdi se mi, da je največja težava v tem pogledu v bistvu, kaj napisati in o čem pisati, ne to, da pišem. In lahko rečem, da je literatura vsekakor del mene in skozi svoje pisanje lahko bralcem ponudim to, kaj je meni lastno, se pravi moj vidik, moj pogled. In na to je bil še komentar, da ima tudi sam glavni lik Juan brke, kar sicer avtor zanika, ampak bomo morali preveriti, saj si očitno obriše pivsko peno z brkom.
Yes, you said your point of view, your perspective, and I think we have to, because it is remarkable how many issues you open with this novel, right? How many themes you are somehow pulling simultaneously, right? And I think one of the main issues is, of course, also death, right? And I will try to combine now these 2 questions because I don't know what the time is. Če bo pa 6, pol pa ni problema. Okay, so death on the one side, right? But mostly I was thinking about how modern society is pushing death away, right? And also the fact that that Juan, when his father is still lying in the morgue, how he cannot even look at him, right? But yes, we know that there are all these different factors. Why not? But I think maybe also because of that, because that is something that we hardly deal with. The other thing is, of course, his mother's illness that he learns about after the funeral, right? And then I was also thinking, as a consequence of her illness, again, how he tackles this, right? And the ageism, right? This was coming constantly to my mind, the concept of ageism, how much prejudice he has, right? Thinking something that I'm sorry for my longer, but this is such an important issue. Something that you mentioned before, for example, that he, as a child of his mother, was unable to think that his mother could have an autonomous emotional life, as you as a narrator say, right? And that he doesn't actually see her as a human being, but only as his mother, right? And then also when another very important moment is why I am talking about ageism, or why I want you to talk about ageism, is when he opens her drawers, trying to find some papers, and he sees how untidy the drawers are, right? The first thing that comes to his mind is old age, right? Not dementia or whatever, but old age. This is why she's untidy. Again, a prejudice, right? All sorts of such moments, very crucial moments in a way.
Yes, it's a lot of questions within your question.
I'm sorry.
No worries. It is for him to do the hard work. Well, one of the things that happened one of the conflicts that happened in the novel is as I said before, is the conflict between generations. Yes. And the generation of Juan has been raised perceiving his parents as a part of the furniture in some ways. You know, they are here, they will be all the time there, and they will not need anything. And it is no need for me to know them personally, even when I am adult. So at a certain point, or at the beginning of the novel, a guy or a man as Juan, who probably have 35, 40 years old, behaves as a teenager, someone undeveloped. You know, we expect from someone like him to be more developed, more adult guy. And one of the things or one of the gifts I think actually we have when we become adults is we can treat our parents as equals. No, I don't know if as a friends, but as equals. And one of the main discoveries in the novel for the characters is exactly that. Discovers that his mom have his own emotional life. At a certain moment in The Doctor, her mom is embraced, he receives a big huge from the nurse.
Yes.
This nurse has been treating his father and herself for the whole life. So Juan heard about this doctor because it's a part of the family, they are going to the doctor, the name of, but he didn't expect this kind of relationship. His mother deserves this huge embracement from someone outside of the family. Empathy. So this is just as simple as empathy from someone. And he get amused about this. How my mom has deserved this. Well, I was when my mother was, forging this big huge. So he realized that for me, that is the key moment of the novel, the turning point of the novel, when he really realized that he has to change.
He also realizes, I'm sorry, but he also realizes that their parents have not only an emotional life, but also are respected by others, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. They are not furniture anymore.
Yes.
Allow me to talk in this way. But it's in some ways the way in which he perceives his parents. Someone who is at home and have a function, really clear function at home, but nothing else. Mm-hmm. So this is one of the discoveries of Juan, and this is one, something so simple, referring to my previous answer, long answer, about these small changes. This is radical for the character to be aware of, to realize these small things. For another person will be something so simple, it's natural. Of course my mom deserve this and can have the possibility of have developed this social life and emotional life, but not for him. And this small change everything for him. Will change his own life. This is the reason, because I warned you, this is not a novel about explosions and heroes, and this is a novel about these small changes that change everything in the life of the characters and in our own life. And I'm sure all we can track in our life, these small moments that really change everything, that really turn our life into something different, or really drove our life to a different direction from certain intimate, small conflicts. I don't know if, I think it's no.
Yes, maybe ageism. Were you thinking about this also, prejudice of the society against old age? I mean,
It is clear.
yeah.
It is clear.
You
The
are
more
definitely-
we go into the future, the more we, put our old people apart. It is something that we don't want to see. What we really don't want to see is our own, way to the old, or become old people, because society rejects old. Not just old people, rejects everything which is old. Old clothes, old cars, old phones.
Yes, true.
We have, we have a kind of necessity for the new constantly, which is capitalism.
Yes.
Capitalism needs to replace things once again and once again, otherwise we'll collapse. So in that package, old people goes as well. Supposedly, elderly is not beautiful. We forget easily that elderly or old people possesses something as wisdom, as experience of life. That's so important, that's so enriching, but we prefer to discard. We are fascinated by all the new things.
Yes.
And I don't know if the position is a kind of veneration. We are not an Oriental or culture. I don't know if it's veneration, it's just respect. And the awareness that we have a treasure on that sum of lives that have experienced the history, probably the war, the death, there's so many important things, the love, so many important things. So my position and my recommendation and probably my writing goes in that way. Don't forget that. Don't be so easily fascinated by the new just because it's new. Can be new, but can be cheap as well, and worthless. New and worthless. So we have to be aware of this, and of course we have this prejudice against all things, not just old people, all things in general, I think. And I think it's a bad direction, definitely.
Ravno si omenil v bistvu svoj vidik. Menim, da obravnavaš ogromno različno tematik in tukaj bi se posvetila najprej na eni strani smrti in pa v bistvu na drugi strani temu sodobnemu odrivanju smrti. Konkretno v romanu Juan niti ne zmore pogledati svojega očeta v mrtvašnici, se pravi, kot da se nekako ne želi ukvarjati s to situacijo. Potem je tukaj še bolezen matere, za katero izve šele po samem pogrebu in v bistvu vidi, oziroma je videti, kako se na to spopada z nekakšnimi predsodki o samem staranju in o starosti. On kot otrok svoje matere, mislim, da je tako tudi napisano, si v bistvu ni bil v stanju predstavljati, da lahko njegova mama ima nekakšno lastno avtonomno življenje. V njegovih očeh je bila le samo mama. Še en primer, ko je Juan videl razmetane predale, je najprej pomislil, na njeno starost, da je to krivo, ne da bi bila kriva kakšna demenca ali kakšna druga bolezenska zadeva, se pravi čisti predsodek proti starosti. Tukaj je v bistvu bilo strnjenih ogromno vprašanj in v bistvu nekako vidimo v romanu tudi konflikt med generacijami. Juan je svoja starša videl kot neke vrste pohištvo, kot inventar, ki v bistvu ničesar ne potrebuje. In moški, kot je Juan, star nekje 35-40 let, se v tem primeru vede kot najstnik, ko bi v bistvu od njega pričakovali precej več odraslosti. Kot odrasli bi v bistvu starše morali obravnavati kot morda ne najbolj prijatelje, ampak vsaj nekako sebi enake. In ko Juan v bistvu ugotovi, da njegova mama živi svoje življenje, je v bistvu takrat, ko sliši o tej medicinski sestri, ki njegovo mamo objame in je to zagotovo tudi en prizor sočutja. On pa to v bistvu označi kot zanimivo in mislim, da je to en izmed trenutkov, kjer ugotovi, da pa se bo moral spremeniti. V bistvu ugotovi tudi, da so njegovi starši nekako spoštovani v družbi in zato potem pride ravno do te spremembe, da ugotovi, da pa le niso inventar, kljub temu, da je on tako dolgo časa doživljal svoje starše. Prej sem že omenil te majhne spremembe, ki so v samem romanu za Juana precej radikalne. To, da se je treba spremeniti v takšni smeri, je marsikomu drugemu povsem kristalno jasno, njemu pa takrat še ni bilo. In takrat se je zato odločil, da bo svoje življenje spremenil. In to so te majhne spremembe, ki sem jih že omenil prej, ki imajo ogromen učinek, ki v bistvu lahko povsem preobrnejo življenje. In tukaj bi se potem spet navezali na te predsodke proti starosti, ki tudi skozi samo delo postajajo vedno jasnejši. Se pravi, ne želimo videti staranja, v bistvu zavračamo stare ljudi, stare telefone, stare avtomobile in to preprosto je kapitalizem, ki stremi po vedno novem. Tako je tudi to prepričanje, da staro v bistvu ni lepo, ampak starostniki imajo pa oziroma vsi kar precej modrosti. Sicer nismo ravno orient, kjer bi starost častili, ampak vseeno na nek način moramo spoštovati to pridobljeno modrost, izkušnje in preteklost, ki so jo doživeli. Po drugi strani pa so v bistvu tudi nove stvari lahko slabe, cenene in grde.
The old car. I think we have to say something about the car, right? So Juan finds this old Renault 4, right? And finds beauty in this car, right? Because it's not just a means of transport, but it's a means, if I now play with the words a little bit, but it's a means for transporting him back to the past, actually, right? To come into contact again with the memories and so on and so forth. And basically also on one of his trips with the mother, he has this epiphany in the car. Why was he so uninterested in his past and where he comes from, when he takes her to her childhood place? Why Renault 4? Why? Where did this idea come from?
It's obvious because it was made in Novo Mesto. That's the main reason.
Thank you, Novo Mesto.
I didn't know that. I knew that it were a huge factory of Renault in Novo Mesto. I didn't know. Someone told me the other day was trying to suggest me that probably the Renault 4 in the novel was made in Novo Mesto. But I think not exactly. There were more factories around Europe of Renault. That was my family car. And when this element of the narration of the novel popped up while I was writing, I really soon discovered that it will be a really symbolical element in the novel. Why? Because this car represents the only one space in the novel in which the characters can feel relaxed. Why? Because they were the car they used to go to the short holidays. I mean, medium-class holidays in that time, which means goes to the river, just a few kilometers away from the village. I know you have huge rivers, but we have not huge rivers. We have just little streams of water. And for the medium-class people, that were the holidays, to go to refresh in a really thin stream of water, ridiculous in Slovenian terms probably, but it was the only one relief from hot. So they weren't able to go, of course, abroad or even to the beach, to the seaside in Spain, but they could afford to go to the river. And they went to the river in this small car, family car. In this moment, while they were traveling to the river, 15 kilometers away from the village, the father wasn't working, just was focused on driving, enjoying the ride. No, the mom wasn't working at home. She has already prepared all the things, all the food for all the picnic, so she was just relaxed, waiting for the arrival. And the kids were just looking through the windows, feeling the wind, feeling the landscape. So it was a short moment in their lives, but they were the only one moment and the only one place in which they were together, and all of them relaxed. and just enjoying the life, enjoying themselves. So the character used this element unintentionally, because he have not made all these thoughts. This is from the author, not from the character. But he soon discovered that the mother feels relaxed and good, and even in her dementia, she reminds something, small things, and she's a quite silent woman, but in the car she talks freely. No, it's not, a huge declaration of the truth, but just sentences that he can...
Anecdotes that she...
Anecdotes, happy moments. He uses this car to try to trigger in her, and a kind of awakeness or something, or awareness or something like that. So when I found this, I said, okay, this is the car, will be great in the novel with the necessary... I will not reveal some things, but there are some, especially one moment in which the way the mother uses the car by herself.
Yeah, exactly. I shouldn't say yes.
I don't want to spoil, but maybe I should spoil, I don't know. But anyway, they have an enormous weight in the novel, but it's just a symbol for them, and as well is a representation of a social class in Spain. This is not the car of a luxury or the rich family. This is a car of the working class people. This is even it's an element of pride. It was the first important thing that they could afford, a car, and a small car. Mm-hmm. Apart from that, of course, the previous generation couldn't, because they weren't exist cars. So it's just in some ways for the families it's a symbol of wealthiness, of wealth. They could afford this car, and even being a working class family. So it is important for the family, it is important for the society, it is important for the writer, as I mean, because it's with just only one element you can portray a whole society, a whole time frame, and of course a kind of typical family in Spain, which is this family.
But also the novel happens in 2010, and this is the time when he and his mother are using the car again, right? And the sister comes back and is shocked what you are driving around in this car, right? In capitalism.
Yeah. But the car, when my family had this car, last 25 years in the family. So I could have been last more, but I don't know why my father sold the car when I was 18 years old or something like that. But it could be, it was designed to be eternal. These cars, they're so mechanical, so simple. And so they can last forever. I would like to have this car, but I don't know where is it.
Good.
Ja, če smo že omenili stare avtomobile, v bistvu Juan najde Renault 4, oziroma pri nas poznano tudi kot katrco. In je v bistvu tudi metaforično prevozno sredstvo v preteklost, skozi katero lahko obuja spomine. Konkretno je v bistvu potovanje z mamo tisto, ki v njej vzbudi te spomine. In tukaj me res zanima, odkot ta Renault 4. Odgovor je, v Novem mestu imamo tovarno Renaulta, morda so to katrco naredili tam. Sicer, dobro, vem sam, da tam ta tovarna obstaja, ampak najbrž so Renaultov model 4 proizvajali kje drugje v Evropi. V bistvu pa je ta Renault 4 bil naš družinski avto in na tak način je v bistvu tudi odkril Juan ta simbolični element tega vozila. Zakaj? V bistvu to je bil tisti en prostor, kjer je celotna družina bila sproščena. Takrat se je hodilo na počitnice ob reko, smo mi vedno rekli, čeprav te španske reke so v primerjavi s slovenskimi rekami morda bolj potoki kot reke, ampak za takšno družino srednjega razreda je bila to izvrstna počitniška osvežitev. Seveda niso hodili na morje, to je bilo predaleč, zato se je pač šlo na reko. In prav ta pot do tja je bila sproščena. Oče ni delal, je v bistvu bil osredotočen samo na vožnjo. Tudi mama ni delala, je v bistvu vse že pripravila vnaprej in se samo veselila prihoda na cilj. Tudi otroci so iz avtomobila samo gledali skozi okno in uživali v vetru v laseh. Tako da so bili tu, v tem avtomobilu, vsi skupaj sproščeni. In tudi Juan je na to ugotovil, da je njegova bolna mama v tem avtu sproščena, ter da se v bistvu v tem avtu tudi spominja določenih anekdot in za razliko od drugod celo govori. Se pravi, avto je v tem primeru ta sprožilec spominov. Mama pa ta avto uporablja tudi sama, ampak kaj več tukaj ne bomo izdali, se to igra kar pomembno vlogo v samem romanu. Treba pa je omeniti tudi, da Renault 4 ni vozilo bogate družine, to je bilo vozilo ene delavske družine. Je bila tudi ena izmed prvih zelo pomembnih kupljenih stvari in je za takrat bila v bistvu pravo premoženje. Tako ima ta Renault 4 v bistvu zelo večplasten pomen. In v samem romanu se v bistvu dogaja leta 2010 in tudi za sestro je šok, da se pa Juan in mama vozita s tem starim vozilom, s staro katrco. Konkretno naša katrca družinska je bila stara celih 25 let, ko jo je oče prodal. Je pa v bistvu to zelo preprosto vozilo, nekaj dosti zakomplicirano in z ustreznim vzdrževanjem lahko pa skoraj da drži večno. Tako da bi si sam to katrco v bistvu želel, ampak žal ne vem, kje se zdaj to vozilo nahaja.
I think this is going to be probably a final question, or I don't know, what time is it now? I should have taken my... yeah, probably, yes. Because you said, you mentioned the symbolic value of the car, right? And I think that the pieces of imagery you create in this novel are extraordinary, really. And I wanted to ask you about the significance of symbolism, like a separate question. And I would just like to maybe, for a better depiction, give just one example that was very actually moving, although this is such a difficult word, but moving moments, was again at the funeral, where the boy, the grandchild of the deceased, basically, the nephew of Juan, throws a handful of almonds onto the casket, right? And additionally, or moreover, the almonds stay on the casket because they are pushing it down, right? They are putting it down and it is moving, and then the almonds stay, right? And such a moment in the novel, saying so many things also about the father, definitely more about the father than about the child. And it's a fabulous moment because when the boy approaches the grave, someone exclaims, "Child," as if he's going to fall into but then he throws the almonds. I mean, these are also very poetic moments, something that you said that you wanted to include. Even from a technical point of view, I mean, maybe that's part B of the question. Even from the technical point of view, do you add these things later on, for example, when you go and revise, or do they just happen, or I don't know?
No. In this case, these kind of things usually appears fluently while I'm writing. When I rewrite or correct, it is not a good moment to add these key elements, because the key element, what I try to do technically always is to tackle writing of the writing of fiction or fiction writing probably in the same way that you poets do, trying to say the more with the less elements. Yes. This is something that I have not taken from my experience as a poet, because I have not been a poet, it is not I can't. But probably I took these elements or these ingredients of my writing from my experience as a copywriter in advertising, in which you have to be so precise, you have to be accurate, you have to tell the more you can with the less you have. So for me, in these terms will be the power of symbol in this case. I've tried to talk about the character of the father. I try to depict the father through these almonds.
Yes, exactly.
Instead of, depict or
tell
directly how the father was, I have tried to find this element with the almond. It's a link between the nephew and the grandfather. And it's not just relation, it's the way in which the father treats the grandson and not the son.
Yes.
So there are so many things involved around those almonds. Apart from the, dramatic moment or poetic moment that a kid can throw this bunch of almonds over the coffin. No? Apart from that, the power of the image itself, it is these all elements that can go into this simple image. If you are a reader, or you have, as a reader, you put enough attention, you can link all these elements between them and create a map in the novel, through the novel. It's not just this element who says how the father was, it's this element connected to other elements in the novel. But I try to avoid this straight depiction of the elements of the characters. I try to avoid that.
Absolutely, and you succeed also. It's actually masterful.
In Spain, we used to say, I suppose it's the same in poetry, the strategy of poetry is not to touch the center, but to go around the center. And you create a kind of perimeter of what you're talking about really, which is the center, but you never mention the center. You go always around. And is for you, the readers, to decide or to complete the images and decide what is in the center. And the center could be the pain, the suffering, or the love, or whatever image, but you try not to mention that.
Yes.
It is not just a poetic strategy, it's a clever strategy. It's a way in which you can engage the reader, to give a space to the reader to add his own life, her own life, and her own experience into what you have written, and into your experience you have expressed through your writing.
Absolutely, otherwise you are almost underestimating your reader.
Yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Zdaj pa v bistvu glede na čas še zadnje vprašanje. V bistvu za to simbolno vrednost avta, če se spomnimo. In ta slikovitost romana je v bistvu izredna. Če dam en primer tega simbolizma, na pogrebu, ko v bistvu vnuk pokojnika na krsto vrže mandlje. In ti mandlji, medtem ko krsto spuščajo, tudi ostanejo na krsti. In ta v bistvu slika ogromno pove, morda celo več o samem očetu kot o otroku. In to so ti takšni poetični trenutki, ki smo jih želeli vključiti oziroma sem jih želel vključiti ki si jih želel vključiti roman. In v bistvu me zanima, če te trenutke dodajaš tudi naknadno, ko pregleduješ samo besedilo. Ne, v bistvu vse te ključne dogodke spišem že med glavnim delom pisanja in med pregledovanjem v bistvu ničesar takšnega ključnega več ne dodam. V bistvu je pisanje romanov tudi kot pisanje poezije. Nekako želimo povedati čim več s čim manj. In mislim, da sta to tudi dva elementa pisanja, ki sem si jih priučil kot pisec besedil na področju trženja, da so v bistvu besedila resnično natančna in jedrnata. In prav tukaj ta moč simbolizma deluje najbolje. Ti mandlji v bistvu opisujejo vez med očetom in oziroma dedkom in vnukom, oziroma kar je tukaj bilo in česar ni bilo med tem zdaj dedkom in njegovim sinom. In to je v bistvu tudi ta poetičnost trenutka v delu. Bralec pa, če je pozoren, lahko vse te malenkosti skozi celoten roman poveže in si na tak način pridobi resnično dobro sliko. Jaz se namreč sam v bistvu izogibam takšnim jasnim, očitnim prikazom. V Španiji radi rečemo, da je v bistvu strategija poezije opisati neko središče, ne s tem, da ga jasno izpostavimo, ampak da se v bistvu samo pletemo okrog njega. In to tako vse okrog, ne da bi se resnično dotaknili tega središča. In v tem središču so lahko razni motivi, lahko je trpljenje, lahko je ljubezen ali kaj čisto tretjega. In na tak način lahko v bistvu tudi bralca motiviramo, da skozi branje vključi tudi delček sebe v to bralno izkušnjo.
Yeah, I was just reminded this short thing, and then what we share is also the affinity for American literature. And now I was reminded when you said that you got so skilled in writing in this way because of working in the marketing agency, but not really, not just because of that. I think that you were also influenced by some American writers. Sometimes you mention Carver, right, as one of the major influences, but I think also McCarthy, probably Cormac McCarthy and writers like that. Yes?
Yeah. We're sorry because he's recently dead, unfortunately, after a long and productive life as a writer and as a human being, I know. Yes, I declare clearly my influence. I am under the influence of American literature. When I was writing or learning how to write advertising, it was a moment in which I arrived to Madrid to study at the university. And that moment I started a new career as a copywriter and a new stage as a reader. After that moment, until that moment I was the reader of the books, all the books that came to the public library of my village. But from that, whatever, theater, essay, whatever, it arrives to the place, I read everything. Poetry as well. But when I arrived to Madrid, I met some people, some key people in my life, some important friends, and they are still my friends. They say, no. They never say no. They say, this is American literature, this is Raymond Carver, this is Georges Perec in French literature, this is Oulipo, and this is the 19th century in literature, and those authors are part of the same movement or art movement. And especially I focus on American literature. And the first one that arrived to me was Raymond Carver. And actually he stimulated me to write fiction. Till that point I wrote copywriting, professional text, but so many diaries, because I was young, I was in love with a woman that he doesn't want love to me, so I was disoriented. I started to write diaries, as a way to explain myself how the life works, or how was I living. But at the same time, I started to read these Raymond Carver or others, or John Cheever, for instance, or John Updike as well, or Carson McCullers. So I started to read this literature, Hemingway, and say, especially Carver, which is impressing, say, this looks simple, I can do it. These stories of people, working class people in Baltimore, in whatever places, I can write like this guy. And I started, to write like this guy, and I couldn't. No. Of course, it is not as simple as I thought as a young man. But what I got from that attempt, that I was starting to write fiction, my own stories set in Baltimore as well. But it was a beginning. It was a starting point for someone who didn't know at that moment that he wanted to write. That was me. So I started, this was a triggering moment for me, reading and trying to emulate Raymond Carver and other authors in American literature. And after that, when I discovered, I found it wasn't as easy as I thought. I, of course, continue to write, to read American authors, and I could say, apart in the American literature, I'd say, apart from Raymond Carver, you are really sharp. It is definitely Cormac McCarthy was a major influence on my writing. Cormac McCarthy.
Oh yes.
Especially because his ability to introduce poetry within the text of the novel. When you read Cormac McCarthy, you are reading an absolutely personal universe and literature, but you are reading a poet as well within the pages of a novel. Supposedly it's a novelist, but for me it's almost a poet. So I read all of he has written, and is for me really important. It's a key figure, it's a father figure for me.
Father figure, yes. But also you mentioned Carson, yes. The heart is a lonely hunter, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This is, I think, the way you yes, it's a never-ending story with you, I see. So I think we will have to call it quits. unfortunately. I have too many questions. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Juan, for... Juan, yes,
It is not autobiographical.
I'm too much in the book, oh my God.
Ja, mislim, da pa lahko oba rečeva, da smo pod vplivom ameriške literature. Ni bilo to samo to pisanje teh tržnih besedil. Se pravi, nekakšne vrste inspiracija iz ZDA, to sta recimo Carver in McCarthy. Ja, drži. Prav McCarthy, ki je nedavno preminil, je zagotovo bil en večjih vplivov name. Sam, ko sem začel študirati v Madridu, sem v bistvu takrat tudi postal pisec teh besedil za trženje in pa predtem sem v bistvu prebral vse, kar je prišlo v našo lokalno knjižnico, ne glede na žanr in na vrsto dela. Od Madrida naprej pa sem se znašel v krogih, kjer so pa že znali povedati, ja, to pa je ta literatura, to so ti krogi, ameriška literatura, sploh Carver je bil tisti prvi, ki je pustil vtis name in je v bistvu bil en izmed glavnih motivatorjev za moje pisanje. Sicer sem tam od začetka pisal predvsem dnevnike kot mladenič z neuslišano ljubeznijo, je to mislim, da kar takšna značilna zadeva. Hkrati pa sem še bral dodatno ameriške avtorje, kot so McCullough, tudi Hemingway in pa že omenjen Carver, ki v bistvu najprej deluje preprosto in takrat sem si kot mladenič mislil, tako bi pa lahko pisal tudi jaz in v bistvu zdaj lahko povem, da to sploh ni bilo tako preprosto. Tako sem tudi jaz v bistvu začel pisati dela, ki so se dogajale v Baltimoru in na tak način v bistvu postal neke vrste imitator Carverja in njegovih sodobnikov. Seveda sem pa v tem slogu tudi nadaljeval, tudi McCarthy je bil velik vpliv name in kar mi je pri njemu predvsem bilo všeč, kako uspe v bistvu v roman vključiti poezijo. Sicer ni pesem, ampak to, ko sem bral, sem resnično imel občutek, kot da berem poezijo in lahko bi v bistvu rekel, da je McCarthy bil tudi neke vrste očetovski lik zame. Tukaj pa še vedno tudi Carson, ki je zapisal izvirniku The Heart is a Lonely Hunter, oziroma Srce je osamljen lovec, ki je tudi definitivno dober primer tega, kako se to navezuje in s tem v bistvu že tudi prihajamo počasi do zaključka.
In potem sem mu rekla Juan, tako kot je ime liku v romanu Adios, Zemlja. Thank you very much. Upam, da smo vas prepričali. Še enkrat poudarjamo, da so na voljo knjige. Najlepša hvala še enkrat.